My name's Angus, and I have a deaf son, Brian, who's now 16 years old. He was born deaf, severely deaf, and he wasn't diagnosed until he was 4.5, which actually was a real devastating time for us as a family. We'd suspected that something wasn't quite right, and for probably a couple of years or so, we'd been told by the doctor that boys develop a wee bit later than girls, and not to worry too much. There was nothing really to worry about. But then it became apparent that something just wasn't quite right. So we had grommets fitted and tried that, and that didn't make any difference. Then we had an audiology test done, or a hearing test done, under general anaesthetic, which identified that he certainly was severely deaf and needed some hearing aids. So from there we went and had a chat with the consultant about it and found out exactly where we were. And actually there and then hearing aids were made available and fitted and switched on. And it was quite an emotional time for us, because part of us were absolutely horrified at the prospect of having a deaf son who was going to be so different to everybody else, and all the trials and tribulations and troubles that was going to bring for him. And the plus side was that he erupted into tears, as we all did, because suddenly he could start to hear things that he'd never heard before. And that was a fantastic experience. So that was a day of completely opposite feelings and emotions. But then, as you would do, you really focus on the negatives. And the negatives were he's going to need so much help, support, and a whole host of things that actually, if he hadn't been deaf, he would never have had to have a need for. So that, for a while, was quite tough on us as parents. But actually, when we really started looking into it and we got some help and advice and spoke to the audiologists and other professionals, it became apparent that actually perhaps things weren't quite as bleak and the future wasn't as dire as we actually anticipated it to be. And very quickly it became apparent that actually with these hearing aids and the right support, the future is not black. The future is good. Actually, the future is every bit as good as you want to make it. It became obvious that our attitude and our approach to it had to change. We had to be positive, rather than looking on the negatives, because there are negatives. He's deaf. It's not a positive. But actually, it doesn't need to be a negative, because he's the same kid underneath it all. He has the same feelings, the same everything. And he's a wee star, whatever happens. So for over the course of his primary education, it was a case of speaking to the teacher for the deaf, the education people, social work department, anybody that we could speak to that could offer us help. And over and above everybody else, the audiology department has been invaluable to us, because these are the guys that really supply the equipment and understand exactly the medical situation behind deafness. And with the help of them getting the right infrastructure in place, and by that I mean the right hearing equipment, aids, etc., it gives your child the best possible chance to live a normal life. And a normal life is what he has lived through, with a bit of support in school and a bit extra support at home. Can't sugarcoat it. Whatever happens, there's still deafness there, and it does take a bit more work and a bit more effort. But actually, it's far from the end of the world. And now that we're 12 years further down the line from when our son was first diagnosed, we find that now we have a son, having gone through education, is now about to sit Nat 5s. He's sitting 5 good Nat 5s this year. Hopefully he gets a good pass. He has a future mapped out for himself. He doesn't see his deafness as a barrier in any way. In fact, I think he sees it as a plus in an awful lot of ways. And that's really important for him, because it's not dragging him down remotely. He wants to become a sea captain and captain oil tankers. Now, that's a fantastic a fantastic aspiration to have. Certainly be better than I had when I was his age, I'm sure. So it just goes to show that with a bit of help, support, and an effort from parents and professionals, that the future is indeed every bit as positive as it would be with a normal hearing child. I have a daughter who's hearing, and she can hear a pin drop from 100 miles. And the differences are clear, but actually, at the end of the day, they're both happy, well-adjusted children, and I don't think deafness is a particular barrier for our son's future at all anymore.